Wakefield. Leeds Rhinos are defending their crown.
And what a moment for Halifax Rugby League.
Austin is through and Warrington dominating. Great try for the Robins. Huddersfield Giants take the points home. Henderson is a poor lad. That is one sensational try.
Look out with a drop goal. Leeds gather round in jubilation.
It's hit the post. It's Wellesby. Wellesby might have got the try. St Helens are champions once again.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of The Last Tackle, Betfred's Rugby League show. Delighted to say that I'm joined by Warrington Wolves and Combined Nations All-Stars assistant coach Andrew Henderson. Hendo, we'll get onto that All-Stars bit very shortly, but the first part of that, of course, Warrington Wolves, a better week for you guys, wasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly was, Lewis. I can't hide the fact that we were bitterly disappointed after that performance that we delivered against the Casper Tigers in the Challenge Cup semi-final recently. The club as a club and as a team, we'd had high hopes and aspirations to go to Wembley again and deliver a trophy for our fans who have been, tremendous throughout this COVID-stricken pandemic where, we haven't had them at the games, but the continued support of the fans has been immense in terms of the way they've continued to put their money into the club, continue to support the club, purchase merchandise, and support the players, via social media platforms, etc. So, it's important that we want to deliver something for those group of fans that have really stuck by the club and been loyal to the club. And I think that was probably what hurt the most, from a team perspective, is that we not only let ourselves down, but we also let our club and our fans down that day. So it was disappointing. But at the end of the day, you learn from these experiences. And I'm sort of hopeful that, we've got, a few months now to try and turn things around and get ourselves into a position to be in the playoffs and hopefully go and achieve some silverware at the back end of the year. And if we've learned from this experience and disappointment, we can use that experience to help us, in a different competition, so to speak, later in the year, if we earn the right to be there. So, but like you said, it was a great response from the team. I felt we were a lot more determined and committed defensively as a group. I felt we really, put some pressure on Wakefield in terms of their go forward, and we know that they like to throw the ball around and express themselves. And I thought we handled a lot of their shape that they threw at us, and they're a team that were playing with a lot of confidence and obviously had no pressure on them going into the game. So we knew they were going to be a dangerous animal that day, and we did a great job in containing them for large parts of that game. And also with the ball, I thought we created some really good attacking opportunities, bombed a couple. So we weren't as clinical as we would have hoped to have been on the day. But I think overall it was a decent response from 1 to 17. And, obviously after the back of the disappointment the week before. So hopefully, we can take that sort of disappointment and fuel it to move forward in the future. We've got St Helens this week, so a great challenge for us coming up.
One of the real positives for you guys across the whole season, really, but in real evidence at the weekend, Gareth Widdop, he just seems to be, after a lot of talk, a lot of rumour about Gareth in the off-season, and people were disappointed with him last season, perhaps, seems to be very settled all of a sudden. He seems to be enjoying his football at Warrington, and his performances are starting to show that. Yeah,
I'm really pleased for Gareth because, he came under a bit of criticism last year, and rightly so. He wasn't the Gareth Widdop that we've seen and had the pleasure of watching in the past for previous clubs he's been with, and obviously internationally as well. Gareth, and it was common knowledge, he had some things he had to take care of off the field, and it certainly was a distraction for him and was disrupting his rugby. Fact. The great thing for Gareth is he's been managed to address that. He's been fully focused. He had a great pre-season for us, and he's come into this season with a determination to prove those people wrong and get back to just doing what he's paid to do, and that's to lead this team, guide this team, and compete hard for this team. And I think we've seen with his performances, he really is competing hard on everything. He's a busy little halfback. He's organising the team well. He's creating a lot of play. He's supporting on a lot of play. I think defensively he's been solid. And he's just competing, and he's just, like you said, enjoying his rugby league. He's got a smile on his face, and I think we're starting to see the best of Gareth Widdop, and I'm hoping there's going to be more to come from him for the remainder of this season. But I think it's fair to say he's been a big part of our upturn in terms of our form this season, which in the Super League I think has been reasonably good, and he's been a big part of that and the reason why. So, and I think you've just seen recently Sean Wayne's added him now to his England setup. He was dismissed at the start of the season, but obviously I think his form this season suggests that he potentially will earn the right to play for England again. Would have been nice to have him for the combined nations, by the way. But yeah, look, it's a credit to Gareth, and I'm really pleased for him. And I've got to know him a little bit more this year too. I feel as a coach, I didn't get to know him as well as I would have liked to have done last season, and that's because Gareth was, he had other things to consider at the time. But I think he's really opened up a lot as a person as well as a player in this environment this year, and it's great to see. And I'm really, really proud of him, and I wish him well for the remainder of the year for us. And if he does end up playing for England as well, fantastic.
Well, let's take a look at his performance and the rest of the highlights in the most recent round in the Betfred Super League.
Stuff is back now, and they're already showing their hand. And here is Jason Gary, the debutant, 17 years of old, trying to step Jake Connor. He does just that. Chris Satai now, hard to stop and offloading superbly, and the ball continues to Houghton. Houghton lobs it wide to Manu Mao now. He gets the pass away to Mahe Fanua. Mahe Fanua down the side, rumbling forward, pass in field to Swift, and Swift will score.
Put it over on the left-hand side for the kick.
On the last, and Sneed obliges. Sneed hoists the kick, except it's Connor who claims it and provides it. But Houghton, Sneed now. Sneed, here is Reynolds, fires the pass to Mahe Fanua. Until Jake Connor puts the brakes on, trying to find a way through, and Connor is over the line. Connor is over the line.
Go on, Chris Hill. There he goes, the big fella. Inside ball to Gaz Widdop. And Hill feeds Widdop for the first try. Options left and right if they want here. Yes, that's what they do. Left. Off the outside of the boot, looking for Ben Curry. Can he get there? It's going to be touchdown. Well, he's right in front. Quick play, the ball they need. Miller joining in to Fafita to barge his way over. Diva, it's Widdop. All the way back. And it's going to be a walk-in for Mamo. Clark to Widdop. Widdop back to Austin. He's through on his own. He gives it to Charlie.
Good at everything, wasn't he?
Oh, straight through the line, Wakefield. Couldn't get the man where he wanted them there, so he comes back and gives it to Ratchford. And then he finds the angle to Mamo. And can he get Charlie in for a second? Charlie's over. There they go. Charlie wants a hat-trick. Has he got the hat-trick or has he knocked on? The referee's going to ask the question. Charlie thinks he's got the hat-trick, and he has. What a night for Josh Charlie.
Here is Elijah Taylor, manages to offload to Jack Wells. They're keeping it alive. Lola Hayer's kick, and the chase, what a great chase it is, and it's desperate defence from Salford, and here is Hadley. Hadley offloads, Laura! Marcel, on by Mills to Quinlan, and Quinlan out to Ben Crooks, and Takarangi will try and do something about that. He does, and he'll kick and he'll chase, and he might get the try. Oh. Plays the ball. Litton away to Jordan Abdul. Abdul bursting onto it is Sean Kenny Dowell. Has he got that down? Yeah. Sam luckily tangled up with Wilmar. Parcell, Matt Parcell. He only have been 21 in that game, wasn't he? He comes from Wakefield originally. The ball is intercepted by Ryan Hall, and Ryan Hall will take off now. Ryan Hall will take off, and he will add to his tally in Super League this season.
Slowly, ball goes smooth, it's intercepted. Now, has he got the leg? Good chance here for Timmy. Can he go the distance? Reynolds it is. Reynolds arrowing for the corner. Can he go? Reynolds still going. Reynolds still going. Reynolds still.
Come with a big shift.
Yeah, they
Sam
will
Tompkins.
now. It looks like Tompkins will see Farah. Farah goes to the line. Superb tackle by Formley, but brilliant offload. Ball goes inside for Drink.
To get the ball, it's a try.
Oh, it's intercepted! It's another intercepted try! How brightly it is, and it's offloaded there. Chance for Sow, what a dummy! What a try! Junior Sow, last one, Drinkwater digs the ball through, and it's picked up. Pass just outside the 20. Little dig over the top by Battieri, and Elliott reads it. Oh, well, does he read it now?
That's great.
Has he got that ball down for Yaha? He has! Well, that is an astonishing try. First time in this game. They've got numbers out wide. And here is Barre. Barre gets the ball. This is a completely different game now. Arthur Morg is on the field. What a class player he is. What a brilliant try this will be. No way.
Yeah, only the 4 games this weekend, of course, with 2 of them missing out due to positive COVID tests. Good news, of course, this week that Huddersfield are back in training and will fulfil their fixture. Unfortunately, Leeds Rhinos will not make the trip to Catalans as they are still struggling with some positive cases. Let's have a look at this round, Hendo, and it starts off with Wakefield versus Cass, a bit of a derby, of course, and Cass, who have looked hot and cold at times this season, you probably make them slight favourites, but Wakefield are tricky, aren't they?
Oh, they certainly are, and I think it is an interesting one because I think when you look at the Super League in terms of recent form, Wakefield are the form side, albeit they got beat by ourselves last week. Prior to that, they had 3 wins on the bounce, whereas Castleford, I think, have lost their last 3 Super League fixtures. Have been obviously had a great Challenge Cup semi-final performance against ourselves, but in terms of the league, their form hasn't been as good as Wakefield. So I think Wakefield, I think they will go into the game with some confidence and belief. I think they're starting to get a few of their better players back on the field as well. Your Jacob Miller's back in the team, and I think he's building up a nice partnership there with Mason Lino, who I think he's started to play really good rugby league football in the last few weeks. Bill Tupou seems to be back into some good form, and David Feeder coming off the bench is adding something to the team. So I think they're playing pretty well at the moment, Wakefield, and will feel fairly confident. Castleford, will they have, like you said, is their focus now on the Challenge Cup? I know Darryl Power won't be talking about the final at this stage, and they'll just want to probably bounce back after the disappointment against Hull. So I think both teams will be determined for different reasons, but I'm fancying Wakefield in this, to be honest, Lewis. I think they've shown enough about them at the moment to suggest that I think they can get the money over Castleford. I just feel there'll be an element of players thinking ahead to the Challenge Cup final. There's been a little bit of disruption as we've seen a couple of players from Castleford being announced that they are moving on at the end of the season. Other players still sorting out their contracts, that type of thing. Whereas I think Wakefield know that this is another opportunity to continue to move up the ladder, get themselves away from that relegation dogfight, which if they lose the next couple of games could get dragged back into. So, I think it makes it for an interesting contest. It's a derby. I think Wakefield haven't beat Cass in about 6.5 years either. So there's some more motivation there for Wakefield to go and get the spoils. So, we'll see how it all goes. But I think Wakefield may just edge this one.
And then yourselves, of course, away to St Helens. One of the few games, it's probably fair to say, that you don't go into as immediate favourites. But does that take some of the pressure off, a bit of a free hit?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, sometimes we see ourselves as a Warrington side when we do go in as underdogs. It seems to suit us better, really. I think, look, I know that the players will be up for it. It is a great challenge for us. We know St Helens are a quality side. Defensively, they're very strong, obviously, and we know they've got some fantastic strike players within that team, both in the middle and on the edges. So we're going to have to have, our best defensive performance. There's no doubt about that, to stop that St Helens go forward, because one thing they have got is they play with pace and power, and if they get on the front foot, they're very, very hard to contain. So there's a big job for us defensively to manage the ruck and control that. But then obviously with the ball, at the moment, I think we're the leading team in Super League in terms of points scored. So we're certainly up there. We're scoring points. So we're confident that we'll be able to find some areas to exploit St Helens, but we have to earn the right as a team to be in those field positions to execute that. So defensively, for me, we're going to have to be on the money tomorrow against a very good St Helens team, who again will be trying to get back up to top spot as they've lost it out to Catalans.
And then Huddersfield versus Salford, so many talking points about this game. Of course, the first time that Ian Watson comes up against his former club, and a few players as well in that Huddersfield team. But even when you take all of that to one side, this is a very important game for both teams who need wins. Totally
agree. You've hit it on the nail on the head there, Lewis. Obviously Salford need a result for obvious reasons. They want to keep pulling away from Lee as much as they can and try and catch Wakefield and Huddersfield, who are just slightly ahead of them. Huddersfield, as you said, there was aspirations. I think Ian Watson made it very clear at the start of the season that he believes he has the ability within time, obviously, to turn the fortunes of that Huddersfield Giants team around and make them a genuine contender and top 4 side in the future. So for him, it's that he want to get some more results on the board to continue to achieve that goal if they're going to achieve it this year. So they'll be looking at targeting this game as a win for them. However, Salford, like you said, they've got to show some desperation now. They've only won 1 game from 8, and again, it's important for them to try and move further away from Lee as much as they can, because I think we're seeing Lee Centurions improving in recent weeks and being very, very competitive. And I don't think they're too far away from a win themselves. So for Salford, very, very important. But also, like you said, it's just an extra spice to it, isn't it? With the way Watson exited Salford, there was a little bit of disgruntlement there from the Salford club. They weren't happy about the way it was handled and the way it was done, and the fact that there's been some rumours of players, wanting to leave once they'd signed for Salford, wanting to go to Huddersfield, and etc. So it certainly adds some more spice to the game for those sort of reasons. But like we said, I think both teams are in a desperate position, and both teams will equally be hungry to get the points. But I think, is it Huddersfield at home?
Yeah.
Lewis? I think Huddersfield at home will probably being at home will probably just edge it for them, for me, on the night. And they've just probably got that little bit of quality in those key positions. I think Salford at the moment, with a few injuries, I think Kevin Brown's been real pivotal to when Salford had a little bit of good run of form there, albeit that they weren't stringing the results. They were playing quite well. I think Kevin Brown was quite pivotal to that, and he's been missing in recent weeks. So I think Huddersfield will just edge it for me, Lewis, based on the fact they've just got probably a little bit better quality at this moment in time in key positions.
You mentioned Lee. We'll come on to their game against Huddersfield in a moment, but we'll quickly just go through Wigan versus Hull KR. And Hull KR are turning into a little bit of a guilty pleasure for me this season, because they're so much fun to watch. But this time round, they were fun to watch last season, but not winning. This time they're fun to watch, and they're picking teams off. Yeah,
they are. I love how you described it. A guilty pleasure. I love that. Great line. They have been, though. They've played some really, really good football. I think what I've noticed with this Tony Smith team with Hull KR, I think what we saw last year was a team that was just, they were basically nothing to lose. Let's just throw the ball around. They were just very, very unstructured in their play. And what I'm seeing this year with Hull KR, Lewis, is I'm actually seeing a little bit of structure to their play. I think there's a blend. So I don't know whether Danny Maguire's having a slight influence here working with Tony Smith. There seems to be a really good balance attacking-wise within that side of a bit of structure, but still that flamboyancy and off-the-cuff, which Tony Smith likes to play. But I think the balance with a bit of structure as well is helping the team. So I think they're playing some really good rugby league football. They're a dangerous side. And when I actually look through their squad, and I think we spoke about it at the back end of last season, Lewis, the recruitment that Hull KR did in the close season, I thought there were some shrewd signings that were brought in. I think Takarangi's been a revelation for them, because he can play so many different positions, but play well in those positions, and he's a real genuine threat with the ball. He's aggressive defensively as well. But then you've still got some great experience with Sean Kenny-Dow, Kane Lynette. I know at the back end of their careers, but they still are a threat. They add some strike to that team. And then you've still got like Adam Quinlan, players like Matt Parcells in great form as well. So, you look at their side, they've got some decent players. They're a decent team, and they're playing a really good brand of rugby league as they do. But I think it's a little bit more controlled and a little bit more balanced in terms of structure and off the cuff, which is helping them. Their issue at times, I think, is defensively. At times they just need to be a little bit stronger defensively. And I think you'll see them climb further up the table. But I think at the moment, at this point of the season, I think if you're a Hull KR fan and you're saying your team's sitting 6th in the league and we're a third way through the season, I think they'd be pretty happy with that. Would you agree?
Oh, I think so. I think if you'd have offered this to Hull KR fans at the beginning of the season, they'd have bitten your hand off. They've definitely. It's interesting the point you make about Maguire, who for me probably the best halfback to play in Super League in the modern era.
Yeah,
I can't see a scenario where he doesn't have an impact on that team. You just by osmosis, just by him being around the group, I'm sure would have an impact.
Yeah, I agree. Nice.
Well, let's move on then. Lee, you mentioned them briefly earlier, and you said they're improving. I completely agree with you. They look like, and this will be making teams like Salford very nervous, because all of a sudden Lee look like it's only a couple of weeks, if not a week, or very close to that first win being picked up.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I look at the last couple of weeks, and we know Lee have done it tough. There's no doubt about it. They had a small squad to start the Super League season. They've obviously had a number of injuries early in the season, which hasn't helped. I think one weekend they played. I think we saw Junior Sau in the front row. They had 3 hookers on the bench. That shows you how desperate and how thin the injury list and the squad has been. So, and they've had to bring in people on loan, young fellas from clubs in and out, which again doesn't help the cohesion and continuity within the team. But I think we are seeing enough in recent weeks from Lee to suggest that there is still a togetherness, there is a unity, there is a determination to try and move forward as a team and as a club. So I think if you're a Lee fan, I know it's probably there's an element of it's going to be a long season, but I still think there's enough in that team where they can get themselves a couple of results and potentially still stay up. There's still time on their side, but I certainly feel the way they've been playing, Lewis. The way they performed against Catalan was outstanding. The week before they were in the contest for long periods, I think against Wakefield, and it wasn't too much points in that game. But like I said, the Catalan game, I felt they were in a position to win that game, and unfortunately they just probably didn't have enough in that second half. When Catalan got in their stride and got their rhythm, they found the reason why Catalan are top of the table at the moment. They are a good side, but I do feel there's enough within that lead team that I've seen to suggest that a win is coming for them, and it may not be in the too far distant future that win comes for them.
This round, of course, part of the Tackle the Tough Stuff campaign. A group of 3 rounds all tackling some of the tough issues in sport. This week is about mental health, and in particular the offload campaign.
This is my first year becoming an ambassador. We're lucky here at the Giants that they've just taken on this program to do through Giants Care, and my role is sort of presenting on different topics to do with mental health, but also to learn about mental health along the way. I grew up in New Zealand. It was a bit of a rough upbringing where mental health and drugs and alcohol was sort of ingrained in our culture, and family members suffered a lot, and also myself. I've been at the lowest of lows, I've been at the highest of highs, but to be able to learn, like I said, to be able to learn about this sickness was probably the main reason for me wanting to become an ambassador. I think it's important because, like I said, especially for sports persons, we go through the highest of highs, and there's a lot more lows that people don't see. And if we can gain tools around mental health and different aspects of mental health, if we can gain tools, and so when next time the things arise, next time we're at a low, that really help us in those situations moving forward. When you're down on form, it's hard to get out of a slump. When your form's down, when the team's not doing so well, from my personal experience, the biggest times where I've probably suffered, and trying to get out of that rut was really hard. I remember it vividly, like it was yesterday. I went like 2 or 3 games in a row where I was bad, and it come to a point where in the game, I was so bad in the game. I remember we played the Bulldogs, I was that bad. I should have got hooked, I should have got pulled off the field, but I was lucky in that time that I had a coach who really stuck by me. And I think one of the main things for me is probably that I've learned through the offload period is probably negative thinking. As a sports person, I think your own worst enemy is yourself. And when you get into that mindset where everything's just negative, and you feel like the harder you work, the worse you get. Gaining tools around that sort of stuff, and gaining tools around my temper. I've got a pretty bad temper, and just something as simple as an ABCDE model, which is, I'll give an example. Just like say I'm driving on the road and someone zooms past me and cuts me off. Automatically, I'm seeing red. I'm angry. My thought, I carry that on for the next hour. I'm angry for the next hour where it shouldn't. I should be able to flush it. And I think learning the ABCDE model is like just trying to think, maybe that guy, maybe his family was an accident. You don't know. I don't know what his reasons for wanting to cut me off and zooming past me were. If I thought that to start with, I wouldn't be angry. I'd be like, there you go past. Rather than me carrying that anger for the next hour, because I'm the sort of person who would. So just little things like that, like the ABCDE model, is something that's really helped me and will help me in my everyday life.
Well, Kenny Edwards, we've just seen in that VT about the offload charity and the tackle the tough stuff around, a player that is eligible for the Combined Nations All-Stars. Hendo, I'm not going to ask you to announce your team because I know you're announcing it on Thursday, but you are, of course, assistant coach in that setup to Tim Sheens. And let's talk about that, working with Tim Sheens, one of the legends of our game on both sides of the hemisphere. What an opportunity.
Oh, fantastic. You know, Tim's, look, he's an encyclopedia of knowledge, that man. I'll tell you, I've been in his company now a number of times since we both obviously got the positions with the Combined Nations. And yeah, look, I'm picking bits off of him all the time. I just love listening to him. He loves. I thought I could talk, Lewis. You know, this guy loves to chat as much as I do. So, we planned like an hour meeting. It ends up being 3 hours because we're both talking rugby and we love talking rugby. And but I just, I really enjoy his company. I enjoy his approach to the game as well. I like his style of play, very similar to myself. He has an attacking sort of ethos. And like I said, it's great to be able to work with him, and he's got so much experience, and some of the stories that he's been sharing, experiences that he's had, it's fantastic. So I've certainly learned plenty of things off him already in the short time I've been with him. Looking forward now to getting on the ground and working with himself on the field and with the playing group as well, which we'll finalise and announce on Thursday. I know England are announcing their squad on the Wednesday. We will announce it on the Thursday once we know potentially who is available. So, and like I said, that man you just mentioned there, Kenny Edwards, could potentially be in the Combined Nations All-Star side as well. Maybe we'll wait and see. But yeah, look, it's exciting, and I think it's a unique experience all round, Lewis. To be honest, for the players and for the coaching team, because normally when you go into an international setup, it's normally a tournament of, whether it's a 2 internationals or 3 international test series, or it's a World Cup competition, which could potentially go from 3 to 6 weeks. So you get a lot more time with the playing group, a lot more probably coaching done with the players. Whereas this, we are literally going into camp on the Monday, play on the Friday. You're going to get 2 field sessions. You've got limited time with them. So for me, it's going to be more keeping it really, really simple and just managing that playing group as best you can through that week to have an enjoyable experience, but one that they're going to be well prepared for to take on a very good England side. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. And like I said, some fantastic quality players are going to be part of this Combined Nations All-Star, which should be exciting for the fans, for those who are going to get to come and watch the game live at the Halliwell Jones there on Friday, the 25th of June. And for those who are watching it via the TV screens or the streaming systems that will be available, it's going to make for a great contest. You're going to have quality England side on show. I know Sean Wayne will be looking to pick what he believes is close to his best side that he feels at the moment in time. And obviously we as the Combined Nations All-Stars will select the best players that we have available that we believe can go there and challenge England in that game. So it's going to make for a great game. Really looking forward to it.
I guess it's a strange dynamic in some respects for you guys, because you're putting together a test team and you're picking, it's not like you haven't got a lot of talent to choose from, because you really have.
Yeah, we do.
But at the end of the day, this is an exercise to prepare England for a World Cup. You're putting together a team that is best, being put together to best prepare England for what they might come up against in 6 months or whatever it is, 4 or 5 months down the line in this World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole point of this game being played. I think England have looked at their previous sort of mid-season tests opportunities that they've had and not necessarily have been able to get the game they've wanted. I know they went over to America a few years ago, didn't they? They played New Zealand in a one-off test. And obviously I think with COVID and stuff like that, we've got to look at the cost and the outlay of all that as well. I mean, there's impacts with financial reasons at the moment. But I think this concept for me, I think can really stay moving forward because not only I think are you getting a good, I suppose, opposition for England, because you're getting basically the best players in Super League that are from other nations, and the fact that it's now Combined Nations opens it up now to English, Scottish, Welsh, French, Tongan, Fijian, Papua New Guinea. You've got all the nations in the world that are available to play in this, so that gives you more player pool and talent to select. But also, I think for those players, and some people might think, well, it's a one-off game. Why would they want to play in this? It's not even an international team as such. But there is a proud history with this combined nations side. It started back in the early 1900s, Lewis, and it ran to about 1975, and they played regular test matches against England for a number of years. So there is some history and heritage behind it, hence why we've gone back to those roots. But also for those players involved, you will have some players that potentially qualify for England and want to show Sean Wayne what he's missing out on. So there's motivation for those guys. You'll have some other players that can be selected for Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, that want to impress, use this as an opportunity to impress the selectors for those nations to say, hey, I'm available, I can compete at this level, pick me come the end of the season for the World Cup. So I think there's going to be a lot of motivation for our group of players, along with the fact that Mossy Masau, obviously there's part of the game is to support him and his fund as well. So there's a lot of positive reason and motivation for those players to play in this game. And I think, like you said, ultimately it'll challenge England and give them ultimately the best preparation they can have leading into a World Cup to help them on a home soil go on and achieve something special.
One of the exciting things about this, from an England fans' perspective, of course, is that we're going to get a little bit of a taste, I think, of what it's going to be like at the World Cup. We've got the men's team, of course, in action Friday night. We have the wheelchair team in action in Sheffield on the Saturday. The men's team on Friday share the pitch, of course, with the women's team, who will take on Wales beforehand in what will be a really interesting international game for the women. And the women's game just going from strength to strength at the moment. And it was announced last year, but then obviously put to one side for COVID. We're finally now in a position where we are able to look at the Betfred Women's Super League South, which is a sort of a sister competition, I guess, to the Betfred Women's Super League as we know it. It's a bit of an expansion competition. There's teams from some areas that are perhaps not rugby league heartlands. And I caught up with Rob Butland, who founded Cornish Rebels, who are one of the founder members of the Betfred Women's Super League South. Well, Rob, thanks for joining us. Firstly, what I'd like you to do is just give us a little bit of background into the Cornish Rebels as a club, and then a little bit more background into the journey into the Betfred Women's Super League South.
Okay, so we started in 2013, founded by myself and our chairman, John. It became apparent quite quickly that there was a bit of an appetite for it from players and from supporters as well. People in Cornwall just seem to love all kinds of rugby, and the fact that we can then bridge the gap in the summer and sort of give them rugby all year round, people see as largely quite positive. It's been a men's team up to now. We were spoken to about a year or two ago now about the possibility of a women's team. We know that there's good sort of women's rugby union teams in Cornwall. There was interest over the last few years from various girls who got in touch and said that they wouldn't have minded playing. So as soon as we were given the platform, really, we were ready to go, and it's hugely important for us as we go forward, because women's sport in general, we all know it's getting more and more popular. We've myself and John have been to the last couple of Super League grand finals, and the games are fantastic, and we're really enjoying watching the success of the Saints women and all the teams in the comps. So for us to be able to kind of feed into that and become part of that side of the game is massively important for everyone, not just the club, but for young girls growing up in Cornwall who want to play rugby.
And given the boom in women's sport and women's rugby league in particular, as you've just mentioned, it's significant, isn't it, having a Cornish Rebels, a London Broncos, a Cardiff team in there. In terms of the development, this could be such a big vehicle for the game of rugby league, not just the women's game, but in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on who you speak to within the game of rugby league, they'll all tell you about various different issues within the game. Like every sport, there's challenges, but I believe, and I've always believed, that rugby league's biggest challenge is geography. It's not about referees, it's not about rules, it's not about any of the other stuff that you hear about. It's geography. We've got to cast the net as wide as possible. You speak to anybody who's involved in the RFL or the national setup, and it's all about how we get to the point where we can beat Australia or beat the big nations in in all three kind of main codes of the men's, the women's, and the wheelchair. And the only way we're going to do that is if we've got a strong national footprint that gives opportunities to everybody to turn on to rugby league and to play, whether you're a boy, a girl, whether you're a child with disabilities. We need to be able to provide that all over the country. And although the game's not traditionally as strong in the South, we're starting. The game has got a lot of history in the South. We've been around for 8 or 9 years, and there's clubs out there that have been around a lot longer than us. It has its challenges, and geography, like I said, is one of them. But every club, whether it's us, whether it's London, whether it's Bedford, or whether it's kind of other southern men's teams like Coventry or whoever, that we're proving that there are people that want to watch it. It can be done. I guess you maybe just need to be that little bit more committed.
So yeah, great news that we're finally getting underway with the Betfred Women's Super League South. The women's game just go from strength to strength at the moment, as we saw on the BBC a couple of weeks ago with that Challenge Cup final. The championship was one, of course, in full swing. And Hendo, a league that you know well, the Betfred Championship, it never seems to disappoint, does it?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's been a great competition so far, and I think there's been some teams that have caught the eye. I think I look at the Batley Bulldogs, for example, a team that have probably struggled in recent years. They seem to be doing reasonably well. The Bradford Bulls seem to have re-emerged, albeit till the weekend where they suffered a heavy defeat. I think it was to the Featherston Rovers. They were missing Danny Bruff, their key pivotal player, but Bradford seem to have re-emerged and have been playing very, very well of late. But like you said, I think Toulouse and Featherston seem to be the two front runners in that competition at present and favourites for promotion come the end of the season. But like I said, we are seeing some teams, I think, that have come out of nowhere and surprising a few people. And like I said, Bradford and Batley are two that are notable for me. But like you said, it's an exciting competition. Like I said, there's some great quality players on show in that division. Some that are ex-Super League players, others with aspirations to become Super League players. Like I said, and the competition certainly doesn't disappoint.
Well, let's take a look at the best of the action then from this weekend in the Betfred Championship.
Work for the pack. As you can see, the first break of the game, here we go, with Featherston Rovers. It's brilliantly worked. They're going to score under the sticks. Connor Jones.
I've got to give him the man of the match.
I wouldn't disagree with that. He's had a brilliant game. The Terrier. Can they hit 40, Featherston? Right down the middle through Field. He won't be stopped. How about that? Have a look at that power.
Hey!
What energy that was. Everybody played their role particularly well. They're very energetic side, Huddersfield, aren't they? And that was a fantastic set of 60.
And here goes Davis straight through the middle, looking to open the scoring.
If not, you just find yourself scrambling a bit.
Here goes Wilson, stepping in and out, bumping one off, finds the offload. Here's a chance now for Coombs. Oh, the no-look pass. Simpson goes in for her second try. How cool was that pass? Sammy Simpson on the end of it. Last one, Sam at the go-to man. Little stab kick across the field. It's deflected, caught by Lawton. Lawton promotes the ball and away Widnes are going to go here. Dion Cross is going to go 90 metres. They've gone the length of the field. Dion Cross, 9th try of the season. What can London do on the back of it? Samet. Got Guaze outside him, using him a decoy. Samet goes through the middle. Has he got the pace? He's going for the line. Turns it back to Guaze, who bounces over the line.
Foster though gets up, plays it quickly as for Harold to Johnson down this left-hand side as Liam Johnson gets through. Chance here for Liam Johnson. He's got a couple to beat. Johnson for the line. He's over. What a try. Sets a base camp for Doncaster. 20 out centre field. Options both sides. They'll go to Johnston. Johnston looks to go on his own. Oh, he's found a gap. Oh, great dummy. And it's another try for Doncaster. Ben Johnston with a great individual effort.
Yeah, another fantastic week in the Championship and the Super League. And Betfred League One, of course, it's coming thick and fast at the moment. Hendo, thank you for joining us. We are running out of time. But just lastly, we've talked about a big weekend for you guys against Saints and a an even bigger week, I guess, for you the week after when you get into kind of international mode. We're a bit quick sometimes as rugby league fans to point the finger and criticise this sport, but it's pretty exciting at the moment, isn't it? Because once we get out of those England games, we're only a few weeks away from Challenge Cup time, and then playoffs and World Cup is on the horizon.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully the restrictions will start to ease towards the back end of the season. So, more fans can enjoy being back at the stadiums. More fans can enjoy being part of that and having that feel of being back in live action, etc. So, but you're right, though. It's an exciting calendar for rugby league this season. You spoke about the women's game and the growth that's going on there, and the opportunities that are coming out there. The wheelchair rugby league, we've got the tri-tag rugby, touch rugby will be coming hopefully back in the summer if the restrictions ease. And there's so many great things to look forward to. You've got all the disabilities, the physical disability teams, the learning disability teams. And like you said, obviously we've got the Betfred Super League Championship and League One action as well on top of all that. So plenty of stuff, plenty of rugby league action to look forward to, mate. I'm excited. I love the game like you love the game. And the fans will have plenty to enjoy come the back end of this season as we lead into what is going to be a great World Cup at the end of the year as well.
Well, thanks again for joining us, Hendo. Thank you for tuning in. We will have plenty of reaction throughout the day. Tomorrow, by the way, where Sean Wayne announces his England squad, his first England squad after taking the job 18 months ago, that he'll actually get to see take the field. But we'll leave you with some of the pick of the action from this weekend's just gone's games. This is the Try of the Week contenders.
Hello and welcome to the Our League Try of the Week. I'm Dave Woods. Let's have a look at this week's contenders. Try one this week, and the question is, what were you doing when you were 17 years of age? Well, Jason Gary was doing this. Absolutely bewildering, bewitching stuff. Less than a minute into his Castleford debut. Wow! Try 2, Hull Kingston Rovers against Salford. Big win in the end for Hull KR. And part of the action included the first try for Rovers from Brad Takarangi. And what a try as well. Bit of creativity here. The step when there's nowhere to go. The kick, the chase, the touchdown. Try 3 is Lee against Catalan. An interception from Ben Reynolds. The question is, can he go the distance? Well, there's plenty in hot pursuit, but he still goes. Surely someone's going to pull him down. No, they're not. Reynolds in at the corner. Try 4, Halifax against York in the Championship. This is Grix making the flying break, and there in support is captain Brandon Moore. Try 5, Featherstone against Bradford. Big effort from Featherstone. Very good try coming up as well. Will Dagger, with all the pace on the outside, drags the defence across, and back on the inside, it's Tom Holmes underneath the sticks, more or less. And finally, try 6. This is from the Women's Super League, Huddersfield against Warrington. Good win for Warrington, and they produced some eye-catching stuff, including this, a try from Sammy Simpson. You know what to do. Get voting for your favourite this week. This might be one.